The sun hung low over Maplewood, bathing the neighborhood in warm golden hues. It was a quintessential suburban evening, yet Daniel's heart felt heavy like storm clouds building on the horizon. As a wedding photographer, he captured love stories, yet his own story was slowly unraveling. Just that morning, he discovered the wreckage of his family history. His teenage son Lucas had torn through their home, ripping cherished photographs and memories into jagged scraps. The remnants, torn edges and faded images, lay scattered like lost dreams on the living room floor. Daniel felt a lump in his throat as he picked up a photo of their last family vacation, smiling faces frozen forever in time, now but reduced to mere shreds of paper. How could Lucas do this? Each ripped photo was a raw cut on Daniel's heart, a skin-deep reminder of how far apart they had drifted. Waves of heartache crashed over him. Was there still time to reclaim what they lost? But as he sifted through the wreckage, a glimmer caught his eye. A flash drive tucked beneath their coffee table, a forgotten remnant of a digital age. Daniel's breath caught. Digital copies! They still existed somewhere, those moments of joy and laughter, digitized captures of unshakable bond. Hope flared briefly, illuminating the dark corners of despair as he hurried to his computer to retrieve them. After what felt like ages, he scrolled through the images, smiling faces, heartfelt moments, family gatherings that echoed with laughter. But as he reached out to reconnect with Lucas, approaching his son felt daunting. Lucas had turned into this stranger, his once bright eyes shadowed with rebellion, dark humor masking deeper pain. Daniel stepped cautiously into Lucas's room, inhaling the mixture of old pizza and teenage angst, utterly foreign yet all too familiar. "Can we talk?" he managed, his voice thick with emotion. Lucas looked up, jaded, as if Daniel spoke a forgotten language. A door creaked open, and suddenly shadows from Daniel's own past loomed large. An ominous figure arrived, transforming memories into questions. The last time they crossed paths had been years ago, and Daniel wasn't ready for this confrontation. Suddenly, the images on the screen flickered between fond memories and buried secrets, intertwining his relationship with Lucas and the missing puzzle pieces of Eliza, his estranged wife. Just when Daniel thought he grasped the scope of chaos, an unexpected email chimed in, subject bold, "Long lost memory." The email contained a cryptic clue, a thread that could weave together the frayed edges of their family tapestry. What would it uncover? Could it reshape their narrative before it faded into the void? Daniel's heart raced as he pondered the possibilities, each moment pregnant with tension. Time was ticking, and uncertainty loomed larger than ever. Hey, before continuing with this incredible story, I have to warn you. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Quickly check that red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's about to drop. And while you're here, give me a big thumbs up. That really helps with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love meeting every amazing person who's part of this community. Your support means everything. Let's stay connected. Daniel's heart raced as he stared at the screen, the email flashing brightly in the dim light of the room. Long lost memory. It felt like a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters. But a sense of foreboding loomed over him. What if this led to even more heartache? He steadied his breath, seeking courage. He wasn't ready to face Lucas, yet the email felt urgent, like a whisper of fate. "Can we talk?" he had said, but now he wasn't sure if he could summon the strength to continue this conversation. Lucas looked up at him, the shadows under his eyes deepening. What now? Swallowing the lump in his throat, Daniel decided to push through. "I found something. I think it could help us." He gestured towards the computer, but Lucas remained tense, arms crossed, braced for the familiar discomfort. "What, more old pictures? I ripped them for a reason." Lucas's voice cut like glass, sharp and unyielding. I know, but there's more. Please. He turned to the computer, clicking rapidly. Images of happier days flickered on the screen. Family vacations, backyard barbecues, winter holidays with laughter and snowball fights. Each memory seemed to hang like an uninvited guest, demanding acknowledgement. Not again. Lucas rolled his eyes, frustration escalating. Just stop pretending everything is perfect. It's not about that, Daniel started, but was interrupted by a sudden knock on the door. The sound felt heavy, almost like an omen. Lucas shot Daniel a look, eyes wide, a mix of confusion and fear. The knock came again, this time louder, more insistent. Who is it? This question slipped out, but Daniel knew. A chill gripped him. Daniel? It was a voice he hadn't heard in years, one that felt foreign, yet painfully familiar. Eliza. A surge of ice coursed through him. The last time she had invaded his world, everything had shattered. He and Lucas exchanged a glance, both feeling the shift in the air. "To what do I owe this surprise?" Daniel called, fighting the tremor in his voice. He took a step towards the door, but an unshakable dread rooted him in place. "Open up," Eliza insisted. "I need to talk to you, both of you. It's important." Lucas froze. This is bad, Dad, really bad. He moved instinctively closer to Daniel, giving in to a protective impulse. Heart thumping, Daniel opened the door, revealing Eliza standing on the threshold. Time seemed to suspend. Her presence ignited memories and anger alike. "You shouldn't be here," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "I know, but I have to explain. You need to see this," she said, holding up a small, weathered envelope. "What's in it?" Lucas blurted out, adrenaline fueling his curiosity. "Everything," Eliza replied, eyes searching Daniel's as if she were trying to gauge his soul. "Your family history, your true family history." The air thickened, her words hanging heavy. Daniel's mind scrambled. What could she possibly mean? He felt raw, exposed. Suddenly, Lucas interjected, a sharp edge in his tone. "What are you talking about?" The concern on his face melted into disbelief. "I can't explain here," Eliza said, lowering her voice. Just trust me. You'll want to know." Before Daniel could respond, Lucas grabbed the envelope from his mother's hand. "What did you do, Mom? Are you serious?" As Lucas tore it open, Daniel moved closer, blood pounding in his ears. The moment felt monumental, like the earth shifting beneath their feet. Lucas pulled out documents, eyes darting across them. Confusion morphed into horror as he began to process the words. "No." Lucas shook his head, disbelief collapsing into despair. "This can't be true." Inside the envelope lay the shocking truth, a revelation that shattered everything Daniel thought he knew about his family. It wasn't just a simple misunderstanding or a tale of lost memories. It was a harrowing revelation that could tear them apart forever. "Lucas, wait!" Daniel reached for his son, but Lucas recoiled, the pain in his eyes cutting deeper than any tear. "Stay away!" Lucas screamed, rage and anguish colliding. "I don't even know you anymore." And just like that, the fragile threads binding their family unraveled, leaving Daniel gasping for air, a world of secrets and lies stretching like a chasm before him. "Stay away!" Lucas screamed, his voice breaking like a storm. The words hung in the air, buzzing with tension. Daniel stood frozen, the space between them filled with chaos, confusion, and that shattering look in Lucas's eyes. Eliza, her lips pressed together, stepped back, sensing the wall of bitterness rising between father and son. "You don't understand, Lucas. You have to listen." "Why should I?" Lucas shot back, his hands trembling with rage. "You've been gone. You destroyed everything." Daniel winced, the truth of those words chilling him to the bone. He felt lost, the very ground beneath him quaking with every heated breath. "Lucas, please, let's—" Daniel tried, but the words slipped away, echoing into the heavy silence. Before Lucas could respond, the envelope slipped from his fingers, scattering the contents across the floor. Papers fluttered like startled birds. A photograph, older and fading, caught Daniel's eye. He reached for it, heart racing, and as he picked it up, the world swooped in around him. It was a picture of a younger Eliza, a smile lighting her face, arms wrapped around a figure Daniel couldn't quite place. Confused, he narrowed his gaze, trying to decipher the background. There was something familiar about the shadow behind her, but it faded just as quickly. "Give me that!" Lucas shouted, lunging forward, his anger boiling over. In that moment, the room felt suffocating, and Daniel instinctively stepped back, feeling cornered. The envelope lay abandoned, forgotten. Eliza crouched down, trying to help, but a loud crash echoed from the living room, sending a jolt through them all. Daniel's heart raced as he looked toward the sound. The front door swung open with a force that rattled the walls, revealing an unexpected visitor, a figure from his darkest days. Morgan, the man from her past, the man who had haunted Daniel's thoughts for years. "Morgan?" Daniel choked out, his voice barely a whisper. The name hung in the air, electric and heavy with dread. Lucas stepped back, eyes wide in disbelief, confusion overtaking his anger. "Daniel," Morgan called, stepping further into the light. "We need to talk, now." His voice was calm, but it held an urgency that screamed for attention. "What are you doing here?" Daniel asked, adrenaline coursing through him. The walls felt like they were closing in. Every muscle in his body tightened. Morgan's gaze flicked between them, an unsettling familiarity painted across his face. "You have no idea what's really going on, do you?" Eliza's expression turned from shock to fury, anger igniting her features. "Get out! You have no right!" "This doesn't concern you, Eliza," Morgan snapped, turning his focus back to Daniel. "You need to understand the truth. There are secrets that link us all together, ones that could tear your world apart." Daniel's heart lurched, uncertainty wrapping around him like a vice. "What the hell are you talking about?" Lucas demanded, fists clenched at his sides. Before Morgan could respond, he reached into his jacket, pulling out an old tattered journal. Daniel's breath caught in his throat when he saw the cover. It was Eliza's handwriting. More than a journal, it was a keepsake from a life Daniel thought he knew. "Inside this are the answers you're looking for," Morgan said, handing it to Daniel as if it contained fire. "Your family history isn't what you think it is." The weight of the revelation began to crush Daniel as he opened the journal, the pages yellowed and fragile. Lucas loomed beside him, eyes glistening with curiosity but shaded by suspicion. "What's in there?" Lucas whispered, the anger fading to a gnawing unease. "Everything," Morgan replied, voice low and almost haunting. "Every lie, every truth, every connection that could bring this family to its knees." Daniel's heart lurched, uncertainty wrapping around him like a vice. "What the hell are you talking about?" Lucas demanded, fists clenched at his sides. Before Morgan could respond, he reached into his jacket, pulling out an old tattered journal. Daniel's breath caught in his throat when he saw the cover. It was Eliza's handwriting. More than a journal, it was a keepsake from a life Daniel thought he knew. "Inside this are the answers you're looking for," Morgan said, handing it to Daniel as if it contained fire. "Your family history isn't what you think it is." The weight of the revelation began to crush Daniel as he opened the journal, the pages yellowed and fragile. Lucas loomed beside him, eyes glistening with curiosity but shaded by suspicion. "What's in there?" Lucas whispered, the anger fading to a gnawing unease. "Everything," Morgan replied, voice low and almost haunting. "Every lie, every truth, every connection that could bring this family to its knees." Daniel saw the words blur as panic surged within him. Could it be? His hands shook as he flicked through the pages. The truth felt too immense, too dark. Could this be the end? He was about to discover something he might not be ready to handle, but he couldn't turn back now. The past beckoned with a chilling promise. Would this unravel them completely, or could it somehow bind them together again? Daniel's heart raced as he stared down at Eliza's journal. The pages trembled in his hands, the weight of their unspoken history crashing against him like a tidal wave. Lucas stood beside him, fists clenched, expression shifting from anger to a dawning comprehension. The room felt electric, the air thick with confusion and dread. Morgan's gaze bore into Daniel, an unsettling calm masking his urgency. "You have to see the truth before it consumes you all," he urged, almost pleading. Daniel flipped through the pages, the yellowed paper whispering secrets with every turn. He caught glimpses of familiar names and places he hadn't thought about in years, memories rising like ghosts. But the words blurred as panic clawed at him. He couldn't focus. There it was, a name that twisted his gut. "Who is Amanda?" Daniel's voice wavered, questions spilling forth like water from a shattered dam. "Why is she mentioned here, again and again?" The change in Lucas was immediate. His face paled as he stepped back, shock anchoring him to the spot. "Who?" he whispered, uncertainty creeping into his tone. Morgan's eyes flickered with recognition, a shadow crossing his face. He hesitated, almost as if weighing whether to continue. "Amanda is," he started, but Lucas shot him a look that could slice through steel. "Just tell us!" Lucas shouted, the veneer of teenage bravado cracking under the weight of what those pages held. "It's complicated." Morgan's voice softened, a trace of guilt shadowing his expression. "Amanda was more than a friend. She meant something to Eliza, something that changed everything." Daniel's heart thundered in his chest as he tried to process the explosive revelation. Anger and betrayal twisted together, making him dizzy. The descriptions flared with memories he hadn't recognized, happy weekends, shared vacations, and yet they felt tainted now, suffocated by secrets. "Why didn't I know this?" Daniel demanded, eyes locked with Eliza. "You never said a word." "Because I was protecting you." Eliza's voice cracked, but her anger matched his. "You were fragile then, and I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought it'd be best to shield you from the darkness." Anguish etched lines across Lucas's face, his hands shaking. "You lied to me. You've kept this from me. Why?" Then the lights flickered overhead, a sudden jolt in the atmosphere. But no one moved. Something deep inside Daniel twisted painfully, as if fate itself had decided to freeze this moment. Morgan stepped closer, his voice low. "It goes deeper. Amanda wasn't just a friend. Daniel, she was," he paused, digesting the dangerous truth. "She was your sister." The world tilted, staggering Daniel as if he'd lost his footing on solid ground. Lucas gasped, eyes widening, stepping back as if the words were tangible things that could rip through skin and bone. He stumbled over papers scattered across the floor, leaning against the wall for support. This can't be true. The room spun, each heartbeat echoing in Daniel's ears. The truth of Amanda crashed down, shaking the very roots of their family. Everything he thought he understood splintered into jagged shards that cut deeply. "No," Daniel whispered, the word barely escaping his lips. You can't tell me she's gone. I've never even met her." Morgan's silence was heavy, stifling, filled with unspoken regrets. "You never knew. Eliza wanted to protect you, to save you from the pain of knowing." The silence deepened, wrapping around them like a cold blanket. The implications bore down relentlessly, shifting between them like shadows. Daniel's breath quickened, his chest tightening. "Tell me everything," he demanded, his voice a hoarse whisper. Before Morgan could answer, a loud crash sounded from the living room, an unmistakable sound of glass shattering. The loud noise resonated like a gunshot, jolting Daniel back to reality with a mix of fear and urgency. "Stay here," he ordered, heart racing again. He turned almost instinctively, ready to confront whatever had disturbed their fragile reunion. But as he stepped out of the room, dread knotted in his stomach. This was no ordinary interruption. Maybe it was an omen, or maybe a sign of worse things to come. The journal lay open on the floor, its pages fluttering, secrets dancing in the air like dust caught in a beam of light. What had he unleashed? What else was hidden in the shadows? Seconds felt like minutes as he crossed the threshold, the silence heating into chaos. He had a feeling, no, a certainty, that whatever lay ahead would destroy everything they thought they knew. With his heart in his throat, Daniel pushed open the door to the living room. What awaited him was a new nightmare, waiting to unravel the threads of their lives completely. The door swung open, and Daniel stepped into the living room, heart pounding like a drum in his chest. The noise had jolted his senses, and dread coiled in his stomach as he glanced around the room. Glass shards glinted on the floor, reflecting the golden light of the setting sun. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for whatever devastation awaited him. His eyes locked on to the coffee table, where the space felt disrupted, as if a storm had swept through. But it wasn't just the broken glass that caught his attention. No, it was the figure standing in the shadows, the stranger, backlit by the dying light, face obscured. It took a moment for realization. Then, with a rush of dread, he recognized the unmistakable silhouette. Elle! His voice faltered, confusion washing over him. She stepped forward, the tension in the air thick like treacle. Eliza's mouth fell open in shock, and Daniel could barely breathe. It was his sister. The sister he thought had disappeared years ago, lost to all the chaos that surrounded their family. "What are you doing here?" he demanded, the urgency clawing at him. She hesitated, eyes darting between him and Lucas. Daniel could see her resolve wavering. "I came to warn you. There are things you don't understand, things about Amanda." Lucas stood frozen, eyes wide. Amanda? Who's she? The name hit Daniel like a slap. Amanda had been the ghost of their past, whispered about but never spoken. The memories twisted in his mind, a tapestry of unacknowledged grief. "She's part of our family," Elle replied, voice trembling. "You don't know what she's done. None of you do." "Enough!" Eliza's voice broke through, taut with an old hurt. "This isn't the time, Elle. You shouldn't even be here. Just go." But Daniel felt something stirring, a wild curiosity mingled with fear. "Wait, what do you mean, part of our family?" Elle took a deep breath, and everything changed. I'm your half-sister," she confessed, her words sharp in the air. "Amanda, she was my mother too. She never told you, never told anyone. That's why I've been looking for you. We need to face this together." The world tilted, and the weight of her revelation cascaded down onto Daniel like a weight made entirely of ice. Lucas staggered back, eyes wide as disbelief crept over him. "You can't be serious," he shouted, disbelief twisting his features. "I am, I swear," Elle pressed on, desperation clawing at her voice. "Everything I've done, I thought if I could reach you, maybe we could—" Just then, another crash echoed from outside, and Daniel turned instinctively again. Beyond the windows, he saw a figure stumbling towards the house, bloodied and disheveled. It was Morgan, collapsing on the doorstep, gasping for air. "Daniel, help!" His voice was a rasp, and panic coursed through Daniel's veins. "The envelope, they're coming for it. You have to hide it." Confusion and urgency collided. The journal lay abandoned on the floor, its pages fluttering like a caged bird desperate for freedom. Daniel felt the panic rising, realization clawing at his mind. The secrets, the family ties, everything felt intertwined, threatening to unravel them all. Lucas turned to Daniel, eyes blazing with anger and disbelief. What is happening? Who are all these people? And in that moment, as Morgan gasped on the floor and Elle hovered in the doorway, the truths of their lives felt like a ticking time bomb, ready to explode. The very fabric of their identities was at stake. Daniel's heart thundered. Could he handle more secrets? What else lay hidden? Everything he thought he knew was crashing down like shattered glass. "Don't let them." Morgan struggled to speak, twisting painfully, eyes pleading. And just like that, the world shifted again, a new nightmare dawning before them, leaving Daniel reeling with an overwhelming sense of dread. Would they make it through this alive? Would their family ever be the same again? The questions loomed larger than ever, echoing in the silence as the storm approached. Daniel's heart raced as the weight of Morgan's gasp echoed in his ears. The envelope lay neglected on the floor, secrets piling up like the shattering glass. In that moment, confusion clawed at him. What more could go wrong? Then the sound of glass crunching beneath hurried footsteps pulled his attention. A dark figure lurked in the doorway, silhouetted against the evening light. "Get back!" Daniel shouted instinctively, bracing for a confrontation. It was only then he recognized the intruder, Detective Ruiz, the man who had looked for Amanda all those years ago. "Daniel, Lucas, we need to talk, now!" Ruiz barked, urgency etching lines into his face. "What the hell is going on?" Daniel spat, feeling cornered, every instinct screaming at him to defend his family. "Where's the journal?" Ruiz pressed, eyes darting around as if he expected the floor itself to swallow them whole. "It's more important than you realize. You have to understand, this isn't about your past. It's about keeping you safe." "What do you mean?" Lucas frowned, uncertainty flooding his features. "You're not making sense." Ruiz took a step closer, lowering his voice to a near whisper. "Listen. What you found, it's not just family secrets. It's a ticking time bomb. You're all targets now." Panic shot through Daniel. "What targets? What are you talking about?" But Ruiz didn't answer. Instead, his eyes locked on to Morgan, who was still on the floor, struggling to breathe, the look of fear in his eyes deepening. "You know more than you're letting on," Ruiz said sternly, taking a step toward him. "Enough!" Eliza shouted, stepping in front of Morgan. "You don't scare us, Detective. We have a right to know what's happening." But just then, a loud crash broke through the tension again, followed by a deafening silence that hung like a thick fog. Daniel whipped around, every muscle coiled tight. A figure burst through the door behind the detective, a tall man, cloaked in shadows, face concealed by a dark hoodie. "Where is it?" the man demanded, voice low and menacing. He stepped into the light, revealing a face Daniel never expected to see. Brian, Eliza's old lover, the one who vanished back when everything fell apart. "Brian," Eliza breathed, horror etched across her face. "Didn't think I'd stay gone forever, did you?" He smirked, his eyes glinting with an unsettling satisfaction. "Get out of here!" Daniel barked, suddenly feeling protective. The last thing they needed was another layer of chaos. "Not until I get what I came for," Brian replied, moving closer, tension hanging thick in the air. Daniel clenched his fists. "You think you can waltz in here and—" But before he could finish, Morgan shot up off the floor. "You don't understand what you're messing with. You think this is just about family? It's bigger than that." At those words, time stretched. Lucas looked at Morgan, then back to Daniel. What is he talking about? And in one lightning moment, everything changed. Brian lunged at Morgan, grabbing him by the collar, rage brewing. "You don't have the right to talk about this. You're the one who—" Then the lights flickered again, a foreboding signal, and just like that, a loud pop rang out. The sound sliced through the chaos. Daniel felt a sharp, electrifying chill race down his spine. Before anyone could react, a bright flash erupted from Morgan's direction. The room erupted into screams and chaos as gunfire shattered the moment. Daniel dove for Lucas, pushing him down to the floor. Eliza screamed, a sound of pure terror, grabbing Elle close. The world spun into slow motion, and Daniel's heart sank. In a storm of shouts and panic, confusion clouded his mind. As the smoke cleared, the room flooded with a silence so profound he could hear his heartbeat. And there, sprawled against the floor, was Morgan, a deep crimson spreading across his shirt. "Daniel," Morgan's voice was barely a whisper, eyes growing dim. "It's too late. They're coming for you." Shock washed over Daniel as the momentum of truth crashed through him like a freight train. The room felt as if it was closing in, relationships fracturing under the weight of betrayal. "Who are they?" Lucas cried, desperation palpable in his voice. But before Daniel could grab answers from the chaos, Brian wiped the sweat from his brow, a sinister smile creeping across his face. "You're in way over your head, buddy, and the fun is just beginning." And in that moment of horror, Daniel's world splintered, leaving him gasping for understanding, clinging to the fragments of the family he knew. Everything was breaking apart, and he was losing control. What had he unleashed? Would they survive this storm, or was it too late for redemption? Daniel's heart felt like it had stopped. Morgan lay on the floor, blood pooling around him, and Brian's smirk jangled nerves like broken glass. The air turned electric, charged with fear and confusion. "Get back!" Daniel shouted, pushing Lucas behind him. He barely recognized his own voice, a throaty growl creeping out in a desperate bid to protect his family. Morgan coughed, blood seeping from his mouth. "It's coming for you," he rasped, each word costing him precious breath. Panic fluttered in Daniel's chest, while Brian's eyes flickered with something darkly gleeful, like he reveled in the chaos. "Stop!" Eliza screamed, hands clawing at the air, as if trying to seize control of the nightmare unfolding. "You've done enough!" But the chaos was relentless. The front door swung wide open again, this time revealing a grim parade of strangers, faces blurred by shadows. They were armed, eyes darting like hawks, scanning the room for their prey. Daniel's stomach twisted.
"Run, Lucas!" He turned to push his son toward the back door, but it was too late. The strangers surged inside, shoving past furniture, chaos trailing in their wake. "Where's the journal?" one of them barked, voice cold as ice. Daniel recognized the urgency. It wasn't just about the family secrets anymore. Lives hung in the balance, and the dread clawed at him. "What do you want?" Daniel yelled, stepping protectively in front of Lucas. But the man only smirked, eyes narrowing. "Did you really think you could dig up the past without a consequence?" he sneered. "The truth hurts, doesn't it?" A loud thud echoed as Morgan collapsed again, gasping for air. "Get out of here," he croaked, pleading with Daniel through bruised lips. "You don't know what they want." Brian rolled his eyes, dismissing Morgan as if he were a mere nuisance. "This doesn't concern you anymore." His tone dripped with scorn, but Daniel could see the tension. He was afraid too. "Who the hell are you?" Lucas shouted, anger mixing with fear, unsure of where to point his rage. Before anyone could answer, the nearest intruder moved fast, grabbing Morgan and hauling him up. Daniel's heart pounded louder now. The stakes rose higher with each second that passed. "What do you want with him?" he demanded, feeling desperation clawing at him. The man simply chuckled darkly. "It's not about him. It's about the bloodline, the legacy." He turned his eyes to Daniel. "You're closer than you think, kid, and you're about to find out just how deep the rabbit hole goes." "What do you mean?" Daniel's mind raced. They were after the journal, but what more could he uncover? With each question, the air thickened. Every breath felt heavier. They had barely begun to comprehend the dark web woven around them, but something shattered before them. Lucas's eyes widened in horror. No, wait, are you talking about Amanda? The room quieted, tension crackling like electricity through the air. Morgan's eyes darted wide, panic seizing him, as the intruder just smiled knowingly, like a cat toying with its prey. Now that's the question of the hour, the man taunted. Too bad for you, the answer isn't what you expect. And just like that, the gunfire erupted again. A sharp bang, and everything turned to chaos. Then, a deafening silence. As the echoes faded, something unexpected crashed against Daniel's perception. A voice, sharp and clear, cutting through the confusion. "Dad, wait!" It came from Lucas, eyes brimming with something Daniel had never seen before. An unsettling realization. You can't hide it anymore." Daniel whipped around, panic surging again. Hide what? Before another word spilled out, Lucas stepped forward, trembling but resolute. The look on his face changed everything, and as he spoke, impending doom settled around them like a heavy fog. "I know the truth about Amanda and you." Time froze. Everything hinged on that moment. What truth? Daniel's heart dropped.
Lucas took a deep breath, voice trembling but strong. "You're not just my dad. You're also Amanda's son, right? You always told me you were in a foster home once." The room exploded with shock. The air charged as if everyone had just inhaled fire. It felt like the floor had disappeared beneath him, leaving nothing but the sudden, sweet scent of betrayal. Daniel staggered back, whirling to face Eliza, Brian, and Morgan as understanding crashed over him like a rogue wave. Secrets he believed were buried forever clawed their way back up, dislodging the very identities they all held. "Lucas, what are you saying?" His voice trembled, fear clawing at his gut. But Lucas stood firm, his gaze racing across the crowd, seeking answers. "You are her son, and we need to know why she abandoned us." The realization sliced through Daniel's mind, threatening to unravel everything. As the intruders closed in, the walls tightened like a noose, and all he could feel was the choking grip of the past. Would they dig deeper into the truth, or would it consume them whole, leaving only ash and heartbreak in its wake? The room fell silent, the air thick with tension. Daniel couldn't process what Lucas had just said. The revelation hung there, heavy and unyielding. The walls felt as if they were closing in. Brian smirked, a cruel smile spreading across his face. "Well, well, looks like family secrets run deep." Daniel's breath caught. "What do you mean?" he demanded, his voice barely above a whisper, fear creeping into every word. He turned to Eliza, her face a storm of emotions, shock, anger, regret. But before she could respond, Morgan gasped again, clutching his chest, eyes wide with pain. "You need to listen to him, Daniel," he struggled to say. "You don't know what they—" But the building dread swallowed his words. The intruders shifted, irritated growls slipping from their lips as they tightened their grip on Morgan. Daniel's heart raced faster. Could they really be after him? What did this mean for Lucas? "Enough," one of them shouted, lunging forward, eyes wild. "We're not here to play family therapy. Where's the journal?" Daniel felt the world begin to shake. "I don't have it," he blurted out, hands raised defensively, thoughts spiraling. In that moment, everything shifted again. The air turned electric as a sudden crash from the back door stole everyone's attention. "What now?" Eliza shouted. The door blasted open, revealing a tall, hooded figure spilling into the room like a dark wave. The air thickened with urgency, and Daniel stumbled back instinctively, fist clenching around Lucas's arm. The shadowy figure stepped closer, a smirk hidden beneath the hood. Gotcha all in one place, the figure drawled, voice dripping with malice. Who's there? Brian barked, backing away. Anger and anxiety crackled between them all, tension cutting sharply through the room. But it was the next moment that sent everything careening. The figure pulled down the hood, and Daniel gasped. It was Amanda, alive! "Daniel," she said, her voice soothing and chilling all at once. "You need to listen. They've been hunting me, and I had to stay hidden." "Stay hidden?" Daniel echoed, mind racing as confusion crashed against shock. "Why? What's going on?" "Because it's not just about family secrets," she continued, stepping tentatively into the room. "It's about power, inheritances, legacies." Her eyes flicked to the intruders, who were now growing visibly agitated, shifting nervously. "I needed to protect you, protect Lucas." "Protect us from what?" Lucas asked, courage mingled with confusion. Amanda looked at Lucas, her expression unreadable. "From the truth, which is far more dangerous than you knew. Your family, it's not just complicated. It's woven into the shadows of our past." Morgan coughed, holding his side, fear swirling in the air. "She's right. It's all linked. They want the journal because it holds everything. The truth isn't just family history. It's about who we are. They're after our bloodline." At that moment, Brian lunged for Amanda, but Morgan propelled himself forward, desperate. "Don't touch her," he shouted, grappling with Brian, but the room erupted into chaos. Lucas yelled as Eliza screamed, lunging toward Amanda, desperation matching the urgency spiraling through them all. "You left me!" With everyone distracted by the pandemonium, the intruders seized the opening and moved as one. The room shifted, loud and frantic, the shadows closing in. "Enough of this!" one of the intruders shouted, pulling out a gun, the metal gleaming ominously in the dim light. Everything crystallized in that moment. The truth, the weight of fear and betrayal. Daniel felt it in his bones. Family ties didn't just bind them together. They were ropes around their necks, choking the life out of them. "Step away," the intruder demanded, voice unwavering. Then, like lightning, everything exploded. A gunshot rang out, a deafening crack that seemed to freeze time itself. Silence enveloped them all, and in that nanosecond, Daniel's heart dropped. He turned. Morgan collapsed, eyes wide, the crimson spreading across his shirt, a blooming flower of despair. "No!" Lucas screamed, and that sound would echo in Daniel's ears forever. Amanda clutched her mouth, horror etched into her features, and just like that, the very fabric of their lives unraveled. The truth they had been chasing melted into chaos. Daniel's mind raced. Who was alive? Who was dead? They had all been drawn into a darkness that threatened to consume them whole. "Get out!" someone screamed, and Daniel stumbled back against the wall, the world spinning around him. What had just happened? The room felt impossibly heavy with grief and betrayal. Would they ever escape this nightmare? As the echoes of Morgan's last breath filled the space, uncertainty twisted in Daniel's bat like a knife. What would they uncover next? The room felt like it was drowning in chaos, the echoes of Morgan's knock resonating through Daniel's soul. As colors bled together in a blur of horror, he fought to stay grounded. Lucas was gasping, tears spilling down his cheeks, while Eliza shuddered beside him, eyes glazed with disbelief. Brian's sinister grin twisted into a sneer, and Amanda stood frozen, the reality of Morgan's blood pooling around him, pressing down on them. In that tense silence, the gunman shifted his aim. Time slowed, the air thick with anticipation. "You shouldn't have gotten involved," he hissed at Morgan, venom dripping from his words. The implication hung heavy in the air, laced with danger.
Daniel's heart raced. "What do you mean? What's happening?" His voice broke, fear coursing through him like ice. But then, all at once, the tension snapped. The door swung open again, slamming against the wall with a force that sent cracks racing. A woman rushed in, breathless, hair wild and eyes wide with urgency. "Stop! Don't!" she yelled, arms flailing as she sidestepped the chaos. It took a moment for Daniel to recognize her. Jenny? The name slipped from his lips, disbelief mingling with bubbling panic. She was his childhood friend, someone who had vanished from his life. The gunman hesitated, confusion flickering across his features. "What are you doing here?" he spat, anger mingling with caution. "Get out! You don't want to do this," Jenny pleaded, her voice infused with desperation. "There's more to this than you understand." But before she could explain, another loud bang split the air, this time from the other side of the room. A shadow loomed, and suddenly, everything exploded. Daniel's blood ran cold. "Get down!" he shouted, shoving Lucas and Eliza behind him as he instinctively ducked. Glass shattered, chaos erupting around them. In the whirlwind, Jenny thrust a folder into Daniel's hands. "You need to know. It's all in here. About your father, Daniel. It changes everything." The words hit him like a punch to the gut. "My father?" He could barely wrap his head around it. "What are you talking about?" Then, everything shifted like sand beneath his feet. As Brian wrestled with Morgan, a fierce struggle took over, and the gun discharged again. This time, the bullet struck Morgan directly in the heart. The room turned into a canvas of screams and shock. A sickening silence followed. Morgan gasped, eyes rolling back. Blood sprayed across the floor as he collapsed. "No!" Eliza wailed, rushing forward, but it was too late. The realization swept over them, leaving Daniel gasping, his entire world crashing down. But the shock didn't stop. It twisted further. With Morgan's last breath, he choked out words that shattered lives like fragile glass. "Daniel, you're not just his son. You're also a—" Before he finished, Brian slammed his fist into Morgan's face, silencing him with a grunt. "Shut up!" he yelled, filled with rage. Daniel stood in horror, struggling to process it all. Jenny thrust the folder forward again, urgency pulsing through her. "Please, you have to look!" But then a creeping shadow slithered through the room. Lucas's frightened face morphed into shock, his heart racing against his ribs. "Dad, what is happening? Who am I?" The intensity surged around them before the door burst open again, and standing there, breathing heavy and wild-eyed, was an older man, Daniel's estranged uncle Henry. "The truth must come out now," he yelled, fear trickling like ice into Daniel's veins. He shifted his gaze from Jenny to Henry, questions overwhelming him like waves crashing against fragile rocks. "Daniel, you must know. It's all connected," Henry shouted. "Amanda isn't just your sister. You're part of a legacy that ties you to this chaos." The unfolding revelation struck like lightning, illuminating hidden paths and darker secrets. With one breath, everything shifted. Relationships splintered further. Daniel felt the ground beneath him rip away as his mind raced through everything he thought he knew. Lucas's eyes widened in horror. "What do you mean? What's happening?" The fear in his eyes pierced Daniel's heart, a raw truth tearing through him. "Everything!" Henry yelled, voice booming. "Who you are, who you can become, it's all in those pages. You're marked, Daniel. Your family is tangled up in something far darker than you imagine." But before Daniel could process it, a bright flash erupted from the folder Jenny held. Light engulfed everything around him, and in that moment, reality shattered. The room trembled, and amidst the chaos, Daniel felt everything spiral into darkness. What had he unlocked? What lay hidden in those pages? Questions raced through his mind, and as the light dimmed, a choking realization filled the air. He didn't know his family at all.
What would he find in the heart of the storm? What consequences followed this upheaval? Each second felt heavy with loss and uncertainty as the darkness deepened. The world felt like it was collapsing around Daniel. Chaos swirled as Morgan lay gasping, blood pooled beneath him like an unyielding dark tide. Amanda stood frozen, shock painted across her face. Eliza and Lucas shared wide-eyed confusion that morphed into fear, raw and palpable. Daniel, Morgan strained, choking on his words, eyes pleading as he struggled to push through. You have to know, it wasn't her fault. Amanda's breath caught in her throat. What are you talking about, Morgan? What wasn't my fault? But the air was thick with tension. Brian's sneer deepened, his eyes narrowing. Stop pretending you're innocent, Amanda. We all know you've been hiding the truth. Before anyone could respond, Jenny's packet slipped from her fingers, scattering pages across the floor. Daniel rushed to gather them, but a sudden flash erupted from Amanda's direction. It threw everyone back. Walls trembled, the light consumed everything, blaring like an alarm through their souls. And in that piercing moment, it happened. A loud crack reverberated. Morgan's body jerked, eyes widened. "No!" Daniel shouted, too late. The front door blasted apart, fragments flying as shadows surged through. Figures clad in black camo swarming like a roiling tide. "Get down!" Daniel yelled, instincts kicking in. He grabbed Lucas, pulling him to the floor, but the chaos formed a barrier between them and safety. Screams erupted. Shadows moved fast. Gunfire rang out, piercing the air, drowning everything in chaos. Daniel shielded Lucas, heart hammering in his chest. He felt time slow, the world shattering like glass around them. Panic seized his thoughts. Would they ever escape this hell? "Daniel, look out!" Lucas cried. But before he could comprehend, a figure lunged forward, gun raised. Amanda's scream pierced through the bedlam. A shot fired. Daniel turned just in time to see Amanda around the corner, the bullet grazing her arm. But that's not what caught his breath. It was the shimmer of a silver pendant falling from her neck, catching the chaotic light. The pendant hit the floor, rolling to a stop at Daniel's feet. He picked it up instinctively. Cold against his palm, it flipped open. There, etched inside, were names he'd never thought to see. Daniel's world tilted. His mother's name stared back at him, along with a man he barely recognized. It was the man from the photograph, the one with Eliza in his arms. "Daniel, what's happening?" Lucas shook him, fear spilling from his voice. "Who are those people?" Heart racing, Daniel barely registered the chaos around him, the lives hanging by threads. The truth, it's all... But Brian was shouting now, lost in the fray. "Get the pendant, it's our only chance." As confusion unsettled the air, the pendant pulsed with heat. Daniel's knees wobbled beneath him. "No, this can't be real." "It's real, Daniel," Amanda cried, eyes wild as she struggled against her captor. "You're not just my brother. We're twins." Time froze. The world blurred. A shockwave rippled through Daniel's core, and suddenly the room unraveled. Everything turned upside down. "Twins?" Lucas stammered, eyes darting between Daniel and Amanda. "What are you saying? That doesn't make sense." "I didn't know," Amanda shouted desperately. "I had to stay hidden." Then the shadows surged again, moving closer, and Daniel's grip on the pendant tightened. Everything he thought he knew fractured in his mind. Secrets spiraled out of control, wrapping around him like a tempest. "You need to run," Lucas shouted, scrambling for the door. "We can't stay here." But as he turned, one of the armed figures reached forward, hands outstretched. It didn't matter how fast they ran, or how far. The truth had already changed them, turned their lives upside down. What else would it threaten? And as the shadows moved to envelop them, the final question hung heavy in the air. If they were twins, then what else was Amanda hiding? What dark web of lies had ensnared their family? The storm was only beginning.